fifth episode begins with Daryl, Carol, and Antonio looking for Justina and Roberto. They would better hurry, because soldiers have strung up an unconscious Roberto from a bridge with a horde of walkers clawing at his feet. Guns drawn, the heroes easily take care of the bad guys while Antonio cuts down his son. When Roberto comes to, he says he saved Justina and drove away, but Alcazar tracked them down and took her again. She never volunteered, Carol realizes, knowing that Fed lied. Daryl takes Carol aside and tells her they should take Roberto back home and lie about why he was hurt. If they say someone robbed him, Fed won't know anything, and Roberto can get better. Carol knows she can make that lie convincing, but she's more worried about going after Justina and saving her. Daryl finds out from Antonio that the convoy will be heading to Barcelona, and he decides he will save the girl by himself because Carol is still not healed up from her concussion. Roberto arrives back at Solas Delmare and is treated for his wounds by Fed's mother, Marga. Outside, the mayor talks to Carol and Antonio about the price they are paying from the attack by the primitives. When Fed asks about Roberto, they stay with the lie and blame the attack on the primitives, but Fed isn't convinced because he knows they would have killed him. As for Daryl, he went to check on the boat and won't be back tonight. Accepting their answers, Fed leaves them. Paz isn't so dumb, though. She easily figures out it was Alcazar who was behind the track, and trusting her, Antonio and Carol give her the truth. Daryl rides his motorcycle through the Spanish desert when he comes across an old man begging for water. Getting closer, Daryl sees that the man has no eyes. Keeping his distance, Daryl offers him his canteen, but snatches it back when the poor guy tries to down the whole thing. Overhead, buzzards circle, and the man laughs about how they have come from him, and that Daryl will be next. That's enough of a reason for Dixon to get the heck out of there. Not long after, he comes across two train cars being pulled by walkers. In one car, a man lies in a bathtub with a woman when he's told about the man coming up on a motorcycle. Deciding he wants the bike for himself, a gang of bikers takes off after Daryl across the sandy roads, but he stays ahead. When he comes to the end of the road, Daryl turns back, and he and one of the bikers ride right at each other while shooting their guns. Daryl doesn't kill the man, but a shot to the arm, and his bike's gas tank takes him out of the fight. Dixon loses his bike, though, and begins wandering across the hot desert as the buzzards begin their hovering watch. In the distance, he sees them take down a walker. A dozing Daryl is woken at sundown by a group of people who mean him no harm. They all have deformities on their faces, and one of them, Mateo, tells Daryl they're going home where there is water. They take him into their tent village and offer him a cup, which Daryl begs for and downs, but they limit what he can have because their supplies are scarce. Mateo shows him a cistern, but it's empty because bandidos took it. Daryl asks if they're on a train and gets a nod. The community is made of lepers with nowhere else to go, but a woman named Amaya is not like them. She stays with them because they can't infect her. Daryl is offered their truck if he will help them get their water back in return. They desperately need his help, or they will be dead in days. The group lets Daryl sleep on it. As he lies down, a little girl, Rosa, watches him before running off when spotted. In the morning, as you know he would, Daryl decides to help the lepers. In their broken conversation, he instructs the people to fight back against their aggressors. Thankful, the little girl goes up to Daryl and gives him her little water bottle with a cartoon hippo on the side to drink from. As Daryl gets in the truck, Mateo is confident he will be back with their water, while Amaya believes he will leave them to die. A long while later, the bandidos, known as the buzzards, arrive in the town looking for Daryl, but the villagers are ready to fight back to the death. Some bikers are tripped up with a rope and stabbed, while others are shot by a returning Daryl. The last one, who our hero faced off with before, charges on his bike with an axe, but Daryl easily kills him with his own blade. Back at the train cars, the leader speaks to his pet iguana Loa, who he feeds human eyeballs to. Daryl waits above them on a bridge before jumping on it and striking down every buzzard in his path. He separates the walkers from their restraints, leading to them quickly ripping apart the singing man on a horse who had been leading the way. The leader of the buzzards, with his car stopped and the undead clawing at his windows, gets an assault rifle and begins shooting through the walls as his woman runs a watt. Daryl smashes through a window and hides from the bullets, but these two have bigger problems. Because we have got zombies on a train. They briefly put their own differences aside to kill the walkers, but with them defeated, they take a breath before resuming their fight. Daryl attacks, holding the man under the water of his bathtub and drowning him. With the buzzards defeated, the lepers gather around the train car and gather water in cups. Mateo shakes Daryl's hand and thanks him, but as Dixon walks back to his bike, the little girl, Rosa, runs after him and gives him her cartoon hippo cup to keep. He then rides off as Lola walks into the desert as a free iguana. Back in Solas, Delmare, Valentina and her men arrive at the gates to visit Roberto, who lies unconscious in bed. Fed's mom promises she will pull him back. Carol and Valentina talk, with the former cruise ship captain realizing that Carol isn't into Daryl, but Antonio. Carol can only smile as she calls her new friend a horny old lady, but from the way she looks at Robert's father, she's not denying anything either. Later, Carol tells Antonio that she and Daryl are still leaving for America as soon as he gets back. For Antonio, this is home. Carol tries to sell him on Ohio and offers him the chance to come with them, but instead of an answer, Antonio suddenly looks uncomfortable and says they need to get back. As the episode ends, Fed's mother brings the necklace Roberto was keeping from Justina to her son. She's curious how Roberto had it, especially since he wasn't wearing it when he left. When she leaves, Fed sends a guard to look for the Americans and bring them back to him. At Roberto's bedside, Antonio prays for his son as Carol holds his hand. Meanwhile, Daryl blazes a trail back to them on his motorcycle.